Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media. Just taking a look at the 2024 Collector's Edition release of Frank Miller and Philip Dan's Ronin Rising, or Ronin Book 2, or Ronin 2. It's ultimately a sequel, folks. And what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now this book, it is a long removed sequel, as I mentioned, from like the 1983 series. And this particular release, it actually comes from Miller's own label, FMP. Although the collector's edition, it is produced by Abrams ComicArts. There is a smaller format to this book, like a traditional manga release if you just want to grab that one. But honestly, Abrams ComicArts, they really showed up because this book is huge. It's a lot bigger than it appears, just to give you an impression. And as you can kind of see, it is a landscape format. Here's a traditional hardcover, or same size as a trade. Similar dimensions on that, but wow, the book is huge in that sense. Maybe just another one of Miller's landscape formats here with Xerxes. This one's from Dark Horse. You see what I mean, where again, Ronin seems to outshine it. And then probably the only book I can even find that even comes close to it is a Marvel Gallery edition here. And even then, again, it's still a little bit bigger. Even the paper trim is bigger, so yeah, it's quite sizable. Probably a Marvel Absolute edition would probably be the closest. And maybe just to serve as a preamble, basically this series, as mentioned, a long removed sequel. It is in line with the original. I would say that this is much more esoteric than the original Ronin. The original Ronin had a lot of great themes as well, but I would say that one seems, at least it seems, more surface level compared to this one, which can be very deep and metaphorical, a lot of allegories in it. But anywho, maybe just to serve as a preamble, Ronin, it's always been this intriguing kind of little pocket in comic books history, since, it kind of, represents the changing of the guard. Because, Frank Miller in the 80s, he was predominantly working with Marvel. So, he finished with working with, Claremont with Wolverine, the whole Shingen, Mariko storyline in Japan. And he was working on Daredevil at the time, and everybody was noticing how great Daredevil was, right? And I guess Frank Miller, he was using more of his conventional style, the style that looks a lot more like, the John Buscema kind of appeal. Heck, everybody noticed. Even Will Eisner noticed, and gave him props. Everyone noticed, even to the point of DC's head of editing, or I guess their president at the time, Jeannie Kahn. And she kind of lured him in by just offering him, hey, you can work on our mainstream heroes as well. But you know what? We're also going to give you the chance to work on your own, original IPs. So, we'll get those creative juices flowing and write any kind of story you want. And Ronin was like kind of one of the first ones there. And in that respect, I've always appreciated Ronin as well, because it's kind of this, line between drawing from inspiration and also inspiring other things as well. So maybe just to get you that impression, this story, if you've ever been familiar with that show, Samurai Jack, even Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator, even mentions how much he drew upon the original Ronin as like the thematic aspects. Because the original story, it's really just a samurai. He's going after a demon that killed his master, hence why he's a Ronin. Kills the demon curses him. They both get trapped in the sword for centuries, and basically in a futuristic New York. That's where the zeitgeist of the story exists. Very similar to Samurai Jack there. But another thing that was intriguing is that the original book, it dealt with, the power of like psychic power or ESPs. And it's ironic because Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira, that famous manga and that famous film, admittedly I watched the film more. It's interesting how Ronin actually foreshadowed the ending of Akira, because Frank Miller finished his story well before. But I've always found that kind of intriguing. Like I said, what it drew inspiration from and what it ultimately inspired. It's pretty intriguing nonetheless. But now, back to the nature of this channel. At least in terms of the exterior, we have this awesome cover designed by more of Frank Miller's more avant-garde style. This here is actually more of a sticker. It's not actually a part of the cover. So I guess it'll be a little different placement for whomever gets it. So I appreciate that. The spine, however, it is a fabric design, so it'll definitely help it survive and also help with those 2-page spreads. Honestly, I've only found like one that I can think of. But yeah, it does have that red, white, and black motif yet again on this channel. Go figure. And the rear of the exterior, very muted, but it pretty much serves as the, I guess, titling. Now you actually have the title. Now you have Philip Tan being mentioned here as well. So very impressive nonetheless. Very imposing, and as I mentioned earlier, very big with this landscape format. And at least in terms of bonus material, yeah, this book, well, I mean, 40 years in the making, so to speak. But yeah, he has a lot of layout designs here. Very impressive work throughout. And it's more so Frank Miller's more avant-garde style, as I mentioned. Some people either love it, some people hate it. It's funny, though, because people forget that he can draw in a more conventional, corporate style. So, you take it for what you will, right? And here's a little bit of Philip Tan as well. Philip Tan was incredible on this series, as you're going to discover. But man, such an impressive narrative nonetheless, or just impressive works. Yes, one of my favorite images of the entire series. I'm so glad that that was planned out the way it was. And that you could tell it's actually Frank Miller's concept. But Philip Tan, as you'll see, actually does the follow-through. Very impressive nonetheless. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there isn't too much in terms of interviews from Miller in it. You just have your indicia, and that's pretty much all. However, the book does open with a foreword. And it's you may have heard me mention Philip Tan already. He's been in the game for a bit, and he's worked around the block and whatnot. But it's ironic because the foreword, the art in the book reminds me of Jim Lee. The foreword is written by Jim Lee, right? So it's impressive that it just all things kind of just link up in that sense. But one thing I would criticize this for is you can tell that Jim Lee didn't write this for the Ronin Rising. He wrote this for the previous Ronin book, because there's almost no mention of this concept, right? I mean, you do get it at the end, but he's more so bringing up the history of the original release rather than talking too much about this current one. But hey, you know what? I'll take it for what it is. It's not like it's poorly written. It's very well written, so good on him. And yeah, you're getting an impression, yes, the book is going to be pretty much just black and white with heavy ink use. So that's where David Henriquez definitely shows up. But yeah, as the story begins, or just as a prelude, it's kind of just giving you somewhat of a summary of the ending of the first book. Very, very, very brief. Essentially, yeah, that is pretty much the end of the book right there, of the first one. So it kind of places you where you need to be. But this is a set few years removed. So it's just Casey and her child, Billy, basically, the product of their love, her and the Ronin. And you're getting this impression that Billy, which is, by the way, a reference to a character from the first book, the psychic, basically, the super powerful one, basically can change reality. That's how powerful this person is. Basically, yeah, it's just like a lone wolf and cub story. Again, an ironic kind of twist, considering that is a direct reference to something that Frank Miller worked on. He at least helped out with those productions of those releases, at least the North American ones. But yeah, they're just wandering throughout New York. She's on a mission to kind of save the Ronin from, I guess, the trappings of Virgo. Virgo was this AI from the first book that seems to be a little bit more tilted in this book. She seems to have taken over the evil corporation Aquarius and basically just trying to take over the world in her own way, but she's twisted in her own way as well. But yeah, you're just getting right off the bat, awesome work by Philip Tan, this incredibly detailed approach and these awesome dynamic poses. I absolutely love it. Just seeing the kid there. And I like the evolution of characters as well. Just very on point. And yes, you're just getting these awesome acrobatics, this awesome set of, action played out properly. You kind of saw it in the bonus material there, the way they plotted the action. But just the way the panel design links up to it is perfect. Just her little fight here with this demon here. It's amazing. And I love the use of the inks because of how much it pops. Even down to this image here with her son. They just like taking out the demon from inside, the level of darkness. It really does sell it very well. And yeah, you're kind of seeing it here, the art. There are many times you would say, is that not Jim Lee? No, it's Philip Tan, man. Like, Philip Tan really showed up on this book. It's incredible work you're seeing here. Like, very, very, very painstaking approaches being made here. Like, yeah, and you're inside. I guess it had to be black and white because I guess it would be very bloody, you know, like if Lynn Varley from the first book was on it. But it's just very impressive nonetheless, just to see it all play out the way it does. And yeah, he does juxtapose with Virgo, just constantly trying to brainwash the Ronin here, just trying to more and more manipulate him, because she's kind of like obsessed with the fact that Ronin chose a different woman than this AI. Don't ask me why. It's just a very intriguing way to go about it. But you're seeing this incredible work by Philip Tan. But there does come a point in the series, in one of the issues, where it does actually switch to Frank Miller, and it switches back and forth. So like this particular issue, it's all Frank Miller's work. And you're getting more of his avant-garde style of art. So it's on point. And it fits so well. You'd think that they would juxtapose against each other, you know, more in a more brash way. But no, it's actually quite fitting, I'd say. It really does like hold up very well. Like very, very well. Like I'm always impressed with the way this book ultimately ends up looking, because it doesn't seem too jarring each time. And maybe just as an example of a 2-page spread, you're kind of seeing it here and how that fabric spine design kind of really lends to it. It really does fit here. And yeah, this instantly reminds me of something from Akira, how powerful this kid is. Can literally just rip things apart with his mind or whatever, but he's much more than that, which is what I like. It's funny, like Frank Miller seems to have this obsession lately with like these all-powerful characters, you know, like the John Kents. As a matter of fact, this kid reminds me a lot of John Kent, and the whole referencing to Billy from the first book. Man, it really has a great ending. It's very, very esoteric as well. You can definitely tell by the kind of art choices what details being, you know, emphasized here, but it's just very, very on point. I'll always like the way Casey has always been depicted. I like how she was an enemy in the first book somewhat, and then, you know, she softened toward the end, and then hardened it toward the end. And in this book, she's very stoic, very on point. She's all about the mission kind of thing. Man, this is just an ace of a book, definitely. But nonetheless, I would certainly recommend this book for anyone. It's gorgeous. Would you need to read the first book, though? It is one of those things where I would say yes. You do need to read the first one to really appreciate all the little nuances, because they don't really bring up Aquarius or what it is too directly unless you had read the previous one. I'm still hunting for the hardcover of that book. Maybe one day DC will release it. But nonetheless, now that we're at the end, I wouldn't mind hearing your 2 cents down in the comments down below. But honest to God, this is an absolute pickup. And as I mentioned, you don't have to get the collector's edition. There is a more manga style format to it. So yeah, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, although this isn't really that expensive either. But anywho, that's just my 2 cents, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, y'all folks take care.